And we're back for another week with episode 43 of 21st Century Rocker Mom Podcast. We're back like we were last week. Y'all sent me a little message and let me know that you enjoyed the show a little bit and you enjoyed this format a little bit. So here we are back again with you, and Rob McCallum's in the house. He didn't beg to be back on. I was just like, babe, want to come and do a podcast?
No, you didn't even ask me. You didn't even ask me. You just kind of floated at dinner tonight, mere hours ago, that, hey, so these are the things you should look up for tonight's show. I'm like, oh, tonight's show.
I said, be abreast of these topics.
And then I'm like, are you doing video? Are we doing video? Like, oh yeah, no, we're doing video again.
No, I think I said abreast, and then you were just like, you looked at mine.
I was like, oh, chicken
boobies.
breast, yummy.
No, you looked at mine. You're like, boobies.
No. That's not fair. Don't put that out there. Don't put that out there.
Maybe you're looking at mine. Maybe you were. Maybe you weren't. Maybe you were.
Maybe you were looking at mine.
Maybe I was. You know what? It's that's a great way to start this. To crow like the Polish rooster. The rooster of Poland does not crow like any other rooster in the world. And Rob just did its cry, but he's crying because this episode it's a weird one. I've got lots of DMs and lots of comments.
Yeah, what stories are you making up this week?
Yeah. Oh, that's something that I need to address. Just seriously, right off the hop, because I had to tell you this, because I've gotten several DMs now, and certain comments, they're like, "Oh man, that's a great story, blah blah. That's a great joke. You wrote that the way you did." Mostly in DMs. Like, oh, I loved the last episode. You know, that story you wrote about this was great, or that that joke you wrote about this was hysterical. And I'm like, this is how I live, bitch. This is how I live. None of this shit is fucking made up. It's all true. Yeah. A lot of people think that for my podcast that I make shit up and I make stories up. My life is literally, and you can fucking ask any one of my fucking friends this, especially my really close ones. My life is literally stranger than fucking fiction. I don't have to fucking make up shit. I just need time when I'm making notes. Even when you see on my Instagram, I'll hashtag writing notes. I'm just condensing gigantic times in my life that were so huge that I'm trying to just distill them down to their most purest form. So I can share them with you and tell you a story. And maybe someone said that I was a great storyteller. I think maybe they meant they liked the way, or the story, the format in which I told said story. But I got to clear the elephant in the room. I'm just getting rid of it right now.
Yeah, look directly in that camera. I'm going to make sure you're all framed up over here.
Oh, God.
Yep, you're all framed up. Look directly in there. And you make a declaration of everything that happens on these podcasts is going to be 100% truthful.
Do I raise my left hand for this? Do I raise
are
my
you
right
live
hand?
long and prospering?
I certify that everything on this podcast is true. Seriously, dude. For real.
Way to underline what we totally believe by saying, seriously, dude.
But
it's
for real.
Totally real.
No, when they ask
you just turned into Bill and Ted there. Yes, and dude, what? It's totally real.
Also, be excellent to each other.
Party on, dude.
Party on, Rob.
What are we, Wayne's World?
No, I don't know. We're in the basement.
Swing.
Schwang. That's for a girl.
Schwang.
I don't know how to add another vowel. Schwang, swing, swang.
Schwang.
Anything. And sometimes schwang. Just sometimes why? Terrible. Oh my God. What we're going to talk about tonight is terrible. Terrible. We're not talking about cannibals. No, what we're talking about tonight is kind of terrible. I mean, if you already, I've said this before, if you have kids and you let them listen to my podcast, yes, I'm judging you and you're a fucking horrible parent. Send them the fuck out of the room. Send them the fuck to bed. Put your fucking earbuds in. Because we're talking about cults. Because as an overwhelming amount of DMs I get from y'all.
Last week, the Sissel sign or whatever you want to call it. I still think about that.
Marking the marking the sign of the serpent.
And all I think is like, because you said it was like a lightning bolt, and I just think like of the ground getting scorched and a little puff of like carbon or cinder.
Because you're supposed to connect yourself with the earth again, all the way down to the ground with the caduceus of Mercury.
But how far down do you have to go? And did they say you've got to go like one out and one in and one out and one in?
Yeah, like all the way, bitch, all the way down.
So you like, do you start like above your head? What were the rules for the Sissel sign?
It wasn't like a rule. They just showed us how to do it, like physically. Like the one dude who was like in charge of it, who's now passed. I don't like to speak ill of the dead, but the one dude who was in charge of it, who kind of showed us like the moves, who's now like passed.
Here's
we brought it
now
all
that you're leveled up on level 2 with your cloak and dagger. Here are the moves to cast your spell.
He is fucking like ultimately leveled up. So anyhow, so doing that all the way down, that big S. We're going to conquer that big S tonight, and we're going to talk about sex. I didn't tell you.
No, why do you always bring me on for like the sexy talks?
No, but
I'm so uncomfortable with it.
Sex within cults. Because here's the thing about sex. Like either you want to be having it, you don't want to be having it at all, and you'd rather like companionship. You're having too much of it. You're not having enough of it. Your sex isn't the greatest, or it's, or maybe it's awesome. There's always some flavor of sex that someone can relate to. And sex in cults is either someone's like fucking the figurehead. There's some fucked up, like NXIVM, you know what I mean? Someone's having sex with the figurehead of the cult, or there's something strange about like the sex surrounding the cult, or the cult is not having sex at all, and there's weird practices surrounding sex. And it's fascinating to me because, of course, I have been involved in a cult.
Yeah, but yours was like a no-sex cult.
Okay, well, we'll get into that later. It was not a problem considering the partner that I had at the time.
Right.
I'm just putting that out there.
Okay.
Because I certainly wasn't putting it out there in that cult.
So we're saving this for the Act 3 again.
I'm keeping you forever and for always. Speaking of no-sex cults, wasn't Shania Twain in a no-sex cult?
No, it's a belief. It's a belief, I think is what it's called. Wasn't it called like Sant Mat or something?
Yes.
It's not a cult. It's just a belief, and it's a belief system, not a cult.
Was it a belief system when she was with Mutt Lange, the producer Mutt Lange? No wonder that marriage fails.
And it's more about vegetarianism. Or at least there's a side of vegetarianism.
Of vegetarianism. A lot of cults have a thing to do with like controlling, obviously, behavior with the bite thing that we talked about last time. But yeah, like controlling what you eat.
You want to remind everybody about your acronym? BITE?
Just things that like that the cults want to.
What's it stand for? What was it? Behavior? Intelligence? I thought it was talking, but it's not talking. Thoughts. And then E is education.
And those are the things you remember.
I watched last week's episode. Did you?
Those are the things that they want to control. They, as I say, now they'll be referred to as they. This sounds like a legal brief. Now be referred to as they, as the cults. But they want to like generally control those things, those things that are coming inward into your brain. They want to have a good grip over those and make sure that they have a good control over them, and they can totally twist what's coming in and how it's coming in and how it's being received. But they also do that with sex. There are so many different cults.
And evidently food, Shania.
Yeah. So vegetarian cult, because I know she never had any kids.
And I'll tell you right now, if you Google, was Shania Twain in a cult? It's pretty hard to find. You find like information on forums and stuff like dated in 2004. Yeah. Like it is certainly not surfaced anywhere. It's not in her Wikipedia. Nope. The go-to spot for all the important research. It's like buried and you have to kind of look for it.
I remember it being like in a People magazine, like before the internet, like printed, like out in the grocery store, like in Food Basics. I went with my mother and I'm like, oh my God, Shania Twain, Mom. Oh my God, Mom.
Timmins' own
Shania. Do they have a Shania Twain Day? They have a Shania Twin, even.
She was born in Windsor. I don't know why Timmins gets all the love.
I don't know. But
Timmins
anyways,
is like, what, 4 hours north of us?
it is. She's a fantastic singer. Like all like joking aside, really, Shania has a great voice.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm not into
Queen of country music.
I don't think she's the queen of country music. I beg to differ. There are other queens.
I didn't come up with the
music.
moniker.
Well,
that's the moniker that was bestowed upon her.
Well,
do you know
whatever.
she's in the top 10 recording artists of all time in the RIAA?
Are you
era?
serious?
Top 10, yeah.
Wow.
She's the only performer to get 3 albums in a row diamond certified.
Go Shania. You beat Mariah. Holy fuck. They only thaw her out for a Christmas special.
It's true.
Jeez, the way.
See what happens when I get a couple hours of lead time there, folks?
That's
I get to do
crazy.
a little bit of Wikipedia research.
No, but I remember seeing this Shania Twain magazine and
Yeah.
seeing that Shania Twain's in this sex cult. It was probably on the front of like the National Enquirer or something. Like now that I look back on it.
The headline I saw was, Shania Twain joins no sex cult. And that was like in 2004. So about 10 years after she
Exactly.
had been with
Mutt Lang.
Robert Mutt Lang.
God, that guy does look like a Mutt Lang. He like his hair and everything. He just looks like a. He looks like a mutt. He looks like a mixed breed. So the first cult that I wanted to hop into.
Mutt Lang was mixed breed?
He is. It was a Mutt Lang, like mutt, like a dog. When you say it, like a dog's.
Which two dogs is Mutt Lang?
Oh, I don't know what kind of cross he would be. I don't even want to insult animals.
Oh, okay.
I don't love Mutt Lang as a producer. I'm just gonna put that out there. He's not like one of my faves.
He did pretty good work with Shania, I guess.
Of course he did. His wife, he probably like made her cry her ass off in the vocal booth to get his feel across. He's probably like a regular like Terry Jacks, like from the Poppy family. That's a totally different story for a totally different time.
That's a cult.
It's another cult. Another great Canadian band from the 60s. But I'm saying a husband who produced a wife who I feel like there's like a lot of like abuse and produce going on in those situations. That's for another show where they're just like really trying to push them hard to get the sound they want in the vocal booth. So they intentionally get in a fight with them. So they cry and then they get that sad feeling that they need. You know, like Ike Turner used to
I was going to say, you're going to talk
be
about
really
Ike Turner?
abusive, like with Tina Turner and stuff like that to get like what he wanted in the studio. And he'd talk about it like openly. Like
he's a genius for abusing his wife.
I'm like, you fucking
He's like,
misogynist.
Oh, Ike, way to go. Way to go. Way to really hammer her and make her feel like shit.
Yeah, way to go.
For the song.
A total fucking misogynist, like shithead. And I still can't believe when they like list tracks, it's always like Ike and Tina Turner. Ike and Tina Turner. I'm like, no, it's just Tina Turner. Don't worry about who. Like, they just don't. I know he had his contributions to his R&B and everything like that, but he had a lot of contributions to abuse. So I'm just gonna Ike Turner. Sorry.
Which is kind of how you feel about most of these cult leaders too.
Yeah.
Figureheads.
Because like the abuse and stuff like that. And one of the cults that I wanted to get, you know, and talk about, you know, obviously first was a cult that was very famous. It became famous and a lot of people heard about it because Joaquin Phoenix was famously raised in this cult, and so was Rose McGowan. She was born into this cult. And they're now called the Family. Of
course, not just Joaquin,
They've changed their name.
River!
And River Phoenix was born into it too, rest his soul. Another vegetarian and vegan family.
Who doesn't love River Phoenix? I bet there's some River Phoenix superfans out there watching this right now.
You think there's
At least one.
I know at least one River Phoenix fan that is watching the shit out of this right now or listening to it at least.
Well, River Phoenix 85 superfan, this is for you.
Like, we love you, River Phoenix. We love you. I'm telling you right now.
So it's called The Family now, but what was it originally called? And again, I've done my Wikipedia research, so I know all the facts going into this one.
Originally, this cult was called the Children of God. And it was kind of led by a gentleman. Do you remember his name?
No. Don't know his name.
David. I have it in my notes.
Well, there was like so many different monikers for it.
Well, they called him a lot of names.
It's true.
Even in like the Mo letters and stuff like that. But
Yeah, Mo letters. I laughed at that. So like all cults and all religions, there's scriptures and scripts and scrolls that have the instructions. And these were over 3,000 letters that were published from Davy Boy.
Well, Moses David, as they called him. But he was a regular man. He had failed. He had grown up in a family of preachers. He'd kind of traveled around as a young kid with his mom and dad, kind of doing the snake oil tent revival sort of thing with the, hellfire and damnation. And I got this magical snake oil that will cure you and drive out the devil. You know what I mean? Exactly. So he grew up like that. And then his mother, as a child, she said that she almost died and she had like a near-death experience, and then a miracle saved her. So as a young child, David really viewed his mother as a saint. So he already had that view. And then his dad being big up in the church, he said that I was reading an account from him where he said like a young choir boy had whispered in his ear how to masturbate. So he tried it and his mother caught him and she made him finish in front of his father to like completely fucking just humiliate the child. And he said, how
do you finish in front of your dad after your mom catches you?
I don't know I didn't say he did. She just made him. She just like, go finish in front of your father. She didn't say if he did finish or not, right? Like, I don't know how you like make him finish. I don't know how old he was, but he said from that time on, his like relationship with the church was like, fuck this shit.
And his parents, I imagine.
Parents, fuck the establishment, fuck everything about church. What the hell is wrong with this place? So he got older. He had a family. His dad subsequently passed away. And then he tried preaching in several parishes. And he got thrown out for a lot of his sexual beliefs at the time. And his very, very liberal views on sex. And so as he started with his views on sex as they were where he was, he started taking his kids out to perform like the gospel of Jesus because he felt like they were offering it in a way that was more palatable to different people. They tried the Bible thumping thing with the Bible thumping kids and it was not fucking working. They did not want to take the gospel of Jesus. So he kind of took a backseat to preaching and kind of said, okay, you know what? My kids are going to go out and kind of do the work of God. And led by his eldest daughter, really, they did the Joaquin and River Phoenix family thing. And if you've ever seen anything about the Phoenix family, they were a musical family too. And they always had the kids out performing. Have you ever seen any footage with the Phoenix family?
I haven't seen it, but I know of that. Mm-hmm. The circus.
Mm-hmm. I've seen a ton of like filming and tons of like archival footage of the Phoenix family because I've seen lots of documentaries and stuff about the Phoenix family. And I'm fascinated with them and like how they're all involved in some facet of Hollywood or entertainment, or they're each creative in some way, and their intertwinement with Casey and Ben Affleck and all that stuff. But the thing with that is like they put their children like right out there as prophets of God, right out there. Here's the thing, already you're exploiting your children. Like that is like step number one that is fucking fucked in a cult. Already something's wrong here. Like for me, that's already a red flag. But they found with having no luck with these church kids, what they did have luck with was the hippies. Because in the Summer of Love in 1968, he moved the whole family down to California.
Yeah, and that's when Children of God started proper.
Yeah, he got 90 disciples already after his mom died. And he's like, if my mom could see me now.
Yeah.
Like I'm a preacher for real.
It goes from 67, 68 to about 78.
Yeah.
That's like those initial first years. And it evolves afterwards and they rebrand, which is why Children of God is called something completely different now.
Well, because of all the fire that they received too. Yeah. And he, like at the beginning, he was revered. He was known as simply dad to a lot of his followers. But the things that he preached went from, good intentions and the word of God.
Yeah. Again, hippie lifestyle, like all natural man, community love, bring it together.
At one point, they were homeless. Like they traveled on a bus, and because they were getting the heat on them down in SoCal, they decided to go, I think, east they headed east.
Couldn't go west.
Definitely couldn't.
Oh yeah, because they had this vision of an earthquake hitting California,
Yes.
so they had to leave.
They had to go
California.
So they packed up on this bus, and they lived really freaking nomadic, like crazy.
Yeah.
Like they were building like campfires to stay warm, and like he was checking on everyone and laying his hands on the sick, and they all really believed in him. And his daughter, his youngest daughter, who they claim he had incest with. He has another daughter who actually left the cult, and I've seen tons of interviews and archival footage with her. And she said he was just an evil, evil human being put in a body of people that, someone that people believed, that was believable for people, that weak people or people that, like, again, needed something. They needed to be saved. They needed to be there for some reason. But sex in that cult was, once they got settled, they started with all their like programming and things like that.
Yeah. And a lot of that programming was done through these Mo letters, what they refer to as ML, and then a month, and then like a year. And there was 3,000 of these Mo letters that were published over, I think, 10 to 20 year period or so. He died in 94.
He did die in 94.
And then his wife took over, and she remarried, and she took the different labels. Like he was King David at one point, and she became queen, whatever.
She became queen.
And then her new husband, who was like an assistant to Davy, became the new king.
He became
Peter
the new
something.
king. And they had all this hierarchy
But it's
system.
like these letters, it's like, I saw some of the references. It was like ML, July, 82. And it's like, what is this, like an issue of Rolling Stone? And like, here's the doctrine now, and here's how we're changing things and adjusting things and constantly tinkering the dials on the machine, right?
They're trying to make it look cool. They're trying to make it look hip. They've got like comic books. At one point, they've got almost coloring books things. They've got hookers for Jesus. So they had this huge thing about flirty fishing.
Yeah, so this is what I was going to talk about, because the phrase that caught me was almost like a headline on one of the ML, the Mo
Was it
letters.
hookers for Jesus?
No, it was,
Oh.
The devil hates sex, but God doesn't.
Oh my God. Mine was hookers for Jesus.
That's like a tattoo that at least 3 people in Vegas probably have.
I know at least one person who probably has a fucking hookers for Jesus t-shirt. Fucking
T-shirt?
T-shirt and tattoo.
That'd be the best Christmas gift.
Boom shaka laka laka, boom shaka laka laka, everywhere. Like just like the fucking the knuckle zapper.
If you do merch for your podcast,
the
like,
fucking palm zapper.
you got to get like the episode. What is this? 43. You got to get
Episode
the
43 merch.
the Ep 43 like exclusive, like San Diego Comic-Con, like one-time merch. Hookers for Jesus.
Hookers for Jesus shit, flirty fishing, fucking all of it, all the cult shit. I actually know someone who was raised in Children of God, and they told me fucking horror stories. I will never disclose them because they're in that vault. But that person, they told me like fucking crazy shit about that cult. So knowing that actually had chapters in Canada is fucked.
Yeah, there was an international presence, and okay, so hippie love logic, just enough of the Bible undertones, using kids, because who doesn't want to pay attention to a cute kid who's got a polished act?
Exactly.
And
Sanctioning children?
Flirtatious fishing.
Flirty fishing.
Flirty fishing. So do you
Flirty
want to talk
fishing.
about what that is?
So what they wanted women in the congregation to do is to go out and be flirty with men and try to bring them into the congregation. But what it really was actually religious prostitution. So they're going out and like basically banging dudes to try to get them into the group.
Form that connection. But I didn't know it was just women, but I was going to say, like,
It was also young women too, and children.
there was a report that there was something like 100,000 examples of flirty fishing. And then in one of the other like investigations, it revealed that there was 223,000 actual exchanges.
Yep, of actual like sexual exchanges. Yep. And a lot of it.
That's why I was like, well, how many of those were like the men duped versus women duped into coming in?
Well, like a lot of men basically offered their wives, because if you did offer your wife, you're more revered in the community. And then again, if you offered your children, because incest was highly encouraged as well in the church, because Moses David, or whatever his fucking name was, believed if, you're old enough to, go through puberty or have a period or anything like that, well, you're old enough to procreate, so you should be old enough to have sex. We have bodies, so we should be able to express them in a sexual way. No. I'm sorry. There's another red flag. You want to get my kids involved? No. Fuck no. I'm going to give you a fucking hard no. When it comes to kids and their bodies, they belong to themselves.
Yeah, but what's disturbing, like so disturbing, is that they did the thing that almost like The Garden did that we talked about last episode.
Mm-hmm.
They started to become transparent and invite reporters in to take a look at some of their houses or their communes or whatever.
And see how we live.
And a couple of them reported how clean cut they were, and they are not too bad of people, and they've got a certain like nice way of life.
Well, they're super nice child molesters.
Yeah, exactly. And then years later, when there was like actual like police investigation,
there was police evidence, there was books, there were pictures,
irrefutable like child abuse, like evidence that they couldn't ignore.
Yeah, exactly.
But the Supreme Court had ruled that yes, under the previous regime, clearly there were some issues, and as long as they write it out of their doctrine, going forward, that they'll be fine, and that those things and those people are no longer present. So. Now they're fine as the Family International or whatever it's called.
And I still think that fucking shit should follow you. Because if your family was doing that and it's still like headed up by people that are like related to them, fuck that shit. You should be absolutely held accountable for that bullshit. You got
especially if his
involved.
Wife's in charge and now like then you're still connected to the sins of the past.
Exactly. And the sins of the father, obviously. And having children involved, that for me is like, that's fucked. That's where it ends. Like even like children involved in any cult, but then sex involved. That is not, that's kind of like where it ends. That's where the sidewalk ends for me. That's where like I get like, now I'm bajiggity because I'll like bajiggity.
Before you were thinking, maybe this could work out for me. There's a lot of things I like, a lot of pros, maybe more than cons. Kids. That's what puts you over the edge.
I know. Children of God, I never thought was something that could work out for me.
It's just the way you put it. You're like, that's what got me. That was the final straw.
But it's something that was the final straw. It's just like, what the fuck? Like, you're preaching like the word of God to hippies and things like that. I never read anything like that in the Bible. I'm not even a Christian, and I never read anything like that in the Bible. That's not the word of God. You weren't indoctrinated by anyone else. I'm glad you died in 1994 and you didn't die a saint. And I'm glad you died because you were an evil, evil, horrible person. It's horrible.
Yeah, certainly not on any kind of saint list.
No, and like, I mean, there's cults like NXIVM, right? That ended up being like a mind-controlled like sex cult. And not only were these women having sex with like powerful people in the cult, and we've talked about NXIVM before with Keith Raniere. Be our guest.
It's not French, but I love it.
He is now because Lumiere from fucking Beauty and the Beast is here. Be our guest. No, but Keith Raniere, he branded these girls, oh my God, with his name. But like, how many of those girls was he having sex with?
Well, no, it wasn't his name. It was a symbol that just happened to include his initials.
Just be the initials of his name.
And Allison Mack's initials.
And and Allison, who has also been indicted recently on charges.
And then so have like some of the other people, like we talked about. Go check out The Vow on HBO.
Yeah, if you haven't checked out The Vow yet, you got problems.
Well, and there's a few other series about different people that have been involved too. But The Vow, what I love about The Vow, episode 1, and I think I said it before when we first talked about it in one of your early episodes, episode 4, 6 maybe.
Yeah.
You watch episode 1 and it talks about the Executive Success Program, which is just the program you take, like a business kind of program.
Yeah, it's like a pyramid scheme program. Take it on a computer.
And they showcase a lot of what the program is and what the people are feeling as they're going through it. And I'm like, I want to take this.
I was
like so convinced.
I know this seems like I'll be set up for success.
So convinced that as you get through episode 1, you're like, oh yeah, this is great. And then like they kind of drop one little bomb at the end. You're like, oh my God, I have fallen for it. The filmmakers have done their job.
You did it.
Buckle up because
the cult makers have done their job, and that's exactly what they did. And that's how they snaked me at the library. Through the guise of dream work, through the guise of being sort of mystical, magical, roll up for the fucking mystery tour. You want to come? Snap my ass up at the library and bring me to your fucking cult house. One of the temples, I should say, was run out of someone's house. Well, many of them run out of private homes because like no one has like a church for that. So I started going to the meetings at this person's house. They don't like charge you money or anything like that. You sit there, you eat dates and apricots. It's fucking great. You meditate. Everything's cool. Again, like I say, like by the time I got to the second chamber of the Gnostics, I wrote a test, and then I was like in this like other, like after, it's like your initiation into the, I don't know what it is, the darkness, where you go into an all black room, you get blindfolded, you come out, everybody's doing the Dungeons and Dragons. Meanwhile, there are things that mean things, like there's cups and chalices and things like that, and the swords and everything like that. These are all symbolism in this particular cult, because what kind of sex does this cult believe in? And this is a reason I couldn't be in this cult now. There ain't no sex in the champagne room. Well, there fucking ain't no champagne either. I don't drink now, but I did then. But there's no drinking. There's no drugs. There's no smoking the devil's lettuce. There's no smoking the cigarettes. There's no going to movie theaters. There's no watching movies. There's no outside sources. You know what I mean? But there's no sex. And if you do want to have sex, you're going to have it in the way that is called, you're going to transmute the energy, because the idea of getting rid of the fluid and blowing that load.
Why would you want to get rid of that good protein?
Like, honestly, when I first heard that, I was like, when they were like, oh, and you don't want to spill the sacred fluids. And I'm like, what sacred fluids? Like, what sacred fluids are they talking about? Like, what fluid is sacred that's inside your body? Is there holy water in us? Like, seriously. And then they're like, you can't. I'm like, you can't what? And like, no one's coming out and saying it. Like, and I'm coming out and saying it right now. And like, literally no one's saying it at all. I'm like,
tell me you put your hand up and said,
I totally can. I'm like,
well, did he come or what? Jesus, man, there's just some things you don't talk about.
But I literally put my hand up and I said to the teacher, like, I was like, so like, you're telling me you can't blow your load? And he fucking almost died. Like, he didn't even know how to answer the question. He was like, yes, Tanya, that is the answer to your question. I was like,
because you didn't put it in enough like D&D type language.
Sorry, you can't.
So my cup runneth over again.
I cannot fill the hermetic cup.
I cannot cometh on the floor.
On the flooreth. No, instead they want to teach you exercises so you can get on top of each other. It's more than that, than dipping or wetting or whatever you call it. Soaking. It's more than soaking, because you actually have sex. You're supposed to have sex, but you're just supposed to have it for like a long time. But this is not tantric sex. This is not like Kama Sutra. This is not like a crazy thing. You're literally supposed to be trying to have sex so your energy can move up your body so that like when you die, you're more conscious and shit. Like, I'm like, how are you supposed to have a baby like that? Like, I'm like, this is why a lot of people in this group don't have kids. I understand now. Because your seed isn't getting planted anywhere, son. That's why. So
I got to talk to you about this cult stuff that you were in. That's a true story, because you've already taken the Declaration of Truth. Mm-hmm. Okay. I love the little sissel sign.
Like, when you can't blow your load, like, what would you like think about that? Would you think about disturbing behavior? Like, no, coach, I need my fluid. Like, that's literally what I thought. I thought, oh my God, if I ever like...
Got you where I want you.
Hilarious. If I ever come again, someone's going to twist my head off like a Barbie doll.
I want to talk about the sissel sound again, because I haven't got rid of it since you showed me last week.
Sizzly.
I want you to imagine this. You go to your library meeting for the first time and people are doing that.
I'd be the fuck out of there.
You'd be the fucking... And if they had chalices and swords and hoods at this library meeting?
I'd be like, see ya. I'd be gone.
So, but this goes to show like how much like trust they have to gain, because even they know how silly and like strange it is that they have to lure you in for meeting after meeting after meeting to gain your trust before you can accept it.
Now you're doing it. But like, they know how bad it is that they have to gain your trust, so you're not going to tell anybody. Because like, after I got out and everything like that and I left, like, I talked to my friends about it and shit like that, because it was fucking disturbing as shit. I talked to my girlfriends about it, and you know, everybody talks and whatever. And then so one of the people who was still involved in it, like, he called me and he's like, yo, Tanya, like, what the heck's going on? Like, you're like telling people about this? I'm like, fuck yeah, I'm going to tell people about it. It's fucking actually really dangerous and you shouldn't fucking be in it and you should get some help and get reprogrammed into a normal human. Can you tell me one more thing? When they were teaching you to do the Sissel sign, yeah,
was everybody doing it in unison, or was everybody just at their own level? So the whole room was just like a lot of people hissing.
No, you do it to like seal a corner of where you are in Earth, like
right.
Like
but you
north,
guys are practicing,
south, east,
right?
and west. So in the room, everyone's doing it at the same time. It just sounds like a bunch of snakes.
So it's like 3, 2, 1.
Everybody.
And then there's like silence.
Everybody do the sizzles. Yeah, big time.
Like were the people at a time? So like it just like echoed, or just like.
There were a few people that like...
You're not sealing in time.
Yeah, like, there were a few people
I just can't imagine being a fly on the wall with people going...
Well, the thing is, like, I started seeing through... it is silly. Like, it's so
It's ridiculous!
Silly. But, like, I could...
Welcome to the next level.
I could... There are a lot of people that didn't make it to the next level. Because, like, they couldn't take it... They couldn't take it seriously. There was one gentleman who came on his own. And, like, you could really see with Gnostics the misogyny of it all and how it was a really, really male-driven. And especially with the sex. There was so much misogyny and so much, like fucking small dick energy fucking going on.
What is small dick energy?
Small dick energy is
just
small dick energy is just pumping your fucking dick up bigger than you think it fucking is. It's small dick energy. Doing fucking shit like touching girls in mosh pits because you think you can is fucking small dick energy. Being misogynistic is fucking small dick energy. It's like things you got to do. You make yourself feel more like a man. Like, you know what I mean? To like beating up your wife is small dick energy. I mean, and it goes both ways. You know what I mean? Small dick energy is not just about guys having a small dick. It's like if your dick is small in any way, small dick energy it's across the board for all genders. You're being a
mosh
fucking
pit stuff drives me nuts.
Touching anyone that you think you can touch because they're coming towards you. Putting your hands on someone, yeah, like that's small dick energy. That's assault. Really is what it is.
You hug us too often.
I have small dick energy.
What was that movie last night that you showed me? Because that was very cult-like. I don't know if you meant it to be cult-like, but that's all I was thinking.
I did mean it to be cult-like. I showed you But I'm a Cheerleader, which is about it's about a gay conversion camp, which these parents send.
It's a comedy.
It's a comedy. It's supposed to be tongue-in-cheek. It's got RuPaul in it, and he's fantastic. And he goes as RuPaul Charles in it. He goes like in male form, in male fashion, and Natasha Lyonne's in it, and I mean Michelle Williams in it. There's a ton of funny actors in it.
Richard Mall, Bull from Night Court.
Oh my god, yeah, like oh my god. There are some really funny actors and actresses in it, and you had a good giggle at it. But it is like a cult because they want all these kids to turn magically like straight when they go to their gay conversion camp.
They have the figurehead, they have the steps, they have dress regimens.
They have the how they eat.
They have their technological devices to rid them of any impure thoughts that they have.
Yeah, they shock their private
parts. They have role
parts.
playing that they have to do.
Mm-hmm. They have to do like their gender roles and what they would do.
There's tests
within
and
the
ceremonies.
Cult. Like, and that's all what is within cults. But what is within Gnostics is fucking jizzing and just coming. And it's just, you're not going to come. If you want to be in a cult where you're going to have a lot of sex, this one's not for you.
Come to Gnostics where we don't come.
Come to Gnostics or don't. Coach, I need my fluids. You got you where I want you. You're going to get your head turned around like Katie Holmes. And then she was in disturbing behavior, almost got her head turned around by this cult-like bullshit, and then ended up with a crazy motherfucker like Tom Cruise, who got into Scientology, who stood up on a chair, mind you, on Oprah, and jumped up and down that he was in love, but I think he was actually in love with Xenu, or whatever its name is, the alien overlord that takes care of Scientology.
You want to love John Travolta? Then go for it.
No.
Didn't John Travolta play Xenu in like Battlefield Earth?
Yeah, he did.
I think that's what it was called.
He had all those dreads and everything like
yeah,
that.
And they're always shot like on a 45-degree angle because they're supposed to be like giants.
They're supposed to look really huge. Yeah, and they look gigantic. But I'll tell you, another thing, like it goes back to Gnostics and being totally like misogynistic. So after our one like figurehead like passed away, we got another one to like teach. They like didn't know who was gonna like take over as like the boss. There was actually kind of like a struggle, like a huge power struggle about who was gonna teach. So it turned out that one of the Spanish gentlemen who had actually like had some teachings with what they called he liked to be called Venerable Master Samael, and his wife was Venerable Mistress Litalantes. I don't know where they called themselves so venerable. Litalantes. Litalantes. It's Spanish. So one of the gentlemen had actually practiced with one of their sects in Mexico City. So with the sect that he had to kind of like more experience, I suppose, they kind of appointed him, and him and the one's figureheads, like widow, didn't get along, and it was the big shit. But that guy fucking loved to talk about sex. And he's like, oh, I tried to get my practice with my wife. He like literally looked and sounded like Hervé Villachez from Fantasy Island. He was just this tiny, like little like Colombian gentleman, lovely, but obsessed with sex. And it seemed like he loved to talk to young girls about it, because at this time there were a lot of young women and women in the cult, and there were like some husbands and wives and stuff like that. But there's one young man in particular, he was raised Jehovah's Witness, another cult. He came by himself all the time, and he had no like partner to practice with when it came to transmuting the energy, or as they call it. So when you don't come, when you don't go, the train doesn't arrive at the station, ain't no baby making going on, you're not putting a bun of sourdough in that oven, it's not happening. When that's not happening, it's called transmuting the energy. So that means it goes up somewhere good instead of going down into the evil hell of fucking pleasure, because pleasure is to be a non-intellectual animal, and to really get with your animal instincts. And that's not really being what a real human is. That's not being your real self. I'm like, well, whatever. If it feels good, do it. Fuck this cult.
I find it strange that like the guy had to like talk about sex with like the other women there. And I don't know if he thought that would like bring them closer to him, but I mean, obviously everybody listening here, I think, is feeling like what I'm feeling, and that's like,
I was like
creepy. Like, you ain't gaining any trust like that. I mean, I don't know how many meetings you think you need to
the trust points went down, like big time, huge time.
Like Stockholm syndrome is more like feel sorry for me and then form a bond over the traumatic experience that you have together, not like come on to me like inappropriately when we know you have a partner.
Exactly.
And you're not
like,
arriving.
The thing is, his wife was absolutely not Gnostic at all. She didn't come to any of the meetings. She wasn't into any of it at all. Like when you are Gnostics, they really preach that you need a man and a woman to practice with. They don't really they kind of frown upon homosexuality. And for me,
that should have been a flag too.
It is a flag, because that should have been a flag for me. It's for me, especially because I am someone that is very of the opinion that like sexuality is very fluid.
Yeah.
And it's, I'm very supportive of the LGBTQ2 and, community. Like, I find out new things every day and new, reasons and ways to be supportive and stuff like that. And seeing that they didn't,
Well, it's basically, there's a traditional belief system there, though, too, right? Like
man, woman, Adam, Eve, whatever.
Like, again, traditional Christian beliefs say no homosexuality, which doesn't make sense.
Doesn't make sense at all. Like if love is love, and they're preaching love, and love is who you love, then love who you love. It shouldn't matter if it's a flower or a person. It doesn't matter what gender they identify as or whatever. I say be pan, you know what I mean? Be a little bit more gender blind, you know what I mean? I think it's healthy to be a little bit more gender blind. Your kids are not listening to this, but like really, I think it is healthy to be a little bit more gender blind and really love who you love for who they are. And I don't mean just in like a sexual way. I mean that for friendships and stuff too. Be a little bit more gender blind. Love someone because they're awesome. Not because they're male or because they're female or because they're non-binary or they don't identify as a particular gender. They do identify as a particular gender. Love who you love, regardless. And that was another problem I had with that particular thing. That pissed me off major because I'm kind of like a love who you love kind of gal. Because why not? I'm all about the love. I'm wearing a fucking Grateful Dead t-shirt for crying out, Pete. You show up in a suit.
They can't quite see that on the shop, but it's okay.
My little bears.
They can see it now. Careful your mic.
Whoop! Sorry.
There you go.
Knocking around my necklace. Sorry. Swinging around here swinging like trees in the wind like Nell. Like Jodie Foster.
Oh, I think you meant like Nell Carter.
No, not. Give me a break. Nell Carter, and give me a break. Oh, God. Now that takes me back. I'm not even going to go to when that takes me back to when we first started dating. I'm not even going to go there. But anyway, so I'm saying Gnostic sex is not about tantrism. It's not about Kundalini. It's not about raising your consciousness. It's not about the Kama Sutra. You're not going to have a better time with your partner. You're going to have a shit ass time and not end up having a good time at all. So I would say, stay the fuck away from that shit. I had to clear the air. I had to let you know and talk about that a little bit.
It's all about Sloan, right? Like the rock band Sloan says.
If it feels good, do it. Even if it shouldn't. Yeah, seriously, if it feels good.
But that's the flag, right? Like if something is feels natural, not because society says it's natural, but it feels natural to you, and then you're meeting an organization that says, no, you can't do all of this. It's like the other day when we were talking about vasectomies and women's health. If it feels good, do it. So for instance, for birth control, a lot of my girlfriends, their husbands are now getting vasectomies, whereas 10 years ago, they were going and getting their tubes tied, getting tubal ligations. Going into a doctor nowadays, it's not easy for a doctor to say, yes, I'll give you a tubal ligation, because it's a major abdominal surgery. Is that why you got a new pair of scissors?
No! So talking about vasectomies and if it feels good, do it. People do it.
I don't think a vasectomy is going to feel good, so do it.
No, after what I'm saying is, there's people have vasectomies.
That's easy for you to say, too.
It is not easy for me to say. I have an IUD. Do you know how fun that was to have put in?
I've seen diagrams.
Bullshit you have. The fucking, demigorgon comes at your fucking vagina. They open you up with a speculum, we'll call it. You don't know what it is. It's like a garage.
Is it a fishing rod?
It's like a garage door opener for your puja. I'm going to say that right now. I'm going to use the Polish term. So they open your puja like a garage door. Then they got to see your cervix. Then they got to put this thing in there called a cervical stabilizer. That's the demigorgon. It opens it up. My cervix is backwards. So they got to go up and over a hill, and they got to put an IUD in there so I don't get pregnant.
Like the bear went over the mountain to see what he could see.
So they last 5 years. So I'm going to come up on 5 years soon. So we talked about it. And people I know are having, I say, vasectomies left and right because getting your tubes tied. I've already had some major abdominal surgery. It sucks. And I would never get another IUD. Honestly, just getting it in sucks. Getting it out apparently is really easy.
Well, like I said, if you got an IUD, I would get an IOU.
Yep.
One vasectomy.
Exactly. I owe you one vasectomy. But I'm saying, really, the reason people get them in IUDs and vasectomies is because, honestly, if you're in a monogamous relationship with someone that you love, and that's going to be your partner for life. I mean, do you like going swimming in your clothes?
Sometimes it's a fun thing that happens when you get a little crazy, but it's not a conscious decision. Usually there's outside influences.
Mostly people are like, let's get crazy and put a condom on. Or you get
pushed into the pool and it's like, oh, now I'm all wet. Thank God my wallet and keys and phone were not on me.
Yeah, so for a monogamous relationship, I think, do the noble thing and maybe help women's health out. And thank you for vasectomying it up and snipping it up. Snip, snippity, snip, snippity, snip, snip, snaroo.
Why do you keep looking at me with more dagger eyes?
I'm not looking at you with dagger eyes.
Now you're licking your finger on your tongue. I see those golden shears you have off camera.
Listen,
I don't
have golden shears off camera. I gotta tell you, in a few weeks, I'm having some very special guests. I had to pull some strings. I'm having some very special guests on the show. Guests are coming back. Guests are coming back on the show.
Guests have been here for a little bit. Hello.
Other guests. Well, I mean, it's going to be Zoom guests because we're still doing the COVID thing and whatever. But like, guests are coming back on the show. I had to pull some strings to get this one together. I'm really excited to talk to you. They're really excited to talk to you too. I'm going to use the word they so you don't know who it is. And that's going to be fun. So you can find me on here. You know where you can find me all the time.
Well, I got a question for you first before you came.
Oh,
we got a little bit of time to kill here before we wrap it up.
Sure. You just tell me your question.
What's your favorite cult?
Oh, my favorite cult of all time.
And why is it your favorite cult?
Probably like the Rajneeshis with the Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh. I would say the Rajneeshis. If you've ever seen the documentary Wild Wild Country, you can check that out on Netflix. There was just so much going on with that cult that like it's like they took over an entire fucking town. They all dressed the same. They kind of did the intentional community thing where everybody had their own thing going on, and they all kind of helped each other. It was unified. So like the sex and the drugs and things started getting weird. But then like the espionage and how much mystery there was behind it and how much they actually uncovered. And with Anand Sheila, obviously his right-hand lady, who kind of helped the Bhagwan in most of his dealings. That's my favorite cult, I would say. I think that's the most interesting cult to me. Definitely. The Manson Cult is definitely really interesting to me as well, like Charles Manson and things like that. That I would definitely say is a cult because, I mean, all the Mansonites and his followers that followed him and listened to everything that he said. He, again, was a figurehead. People were having sex with him. They were worshiping him. They were listening to him above all others. He was controlling what they did, said, thought, read, everything. They lived down on a ranch, very famously in California, in Death Valley. So those are some of my like favorite cults. There are also a lot of like lesser known cults, but those are some of my favorite cults that I would say.
Top 5 cults with Tanya Candler.
What's a cult that you think is interesting?
It's all about NXIVM. It has to be about NXIVM.
Is that your most interesting cult?
There's a lot of weird stuff in NXIVM. Like you talked about the branding, and we didn't even talk about how like there was the master-slave relationship where you had to like text your master if it was okay to go to sleep and if it's okay to like do these other things, and you have to check in like first thing in the morning.
I'm like, what is this? Good morning, angels. Good morning, Charlie. Like, what the fuck?
The master's homework and stuff like that. Like, I got the paperwork finished for you. But I liked the overall organizational flow of it, where there was all these different groups and programs that were like so separate businesses underneath the shell.
Yeah.
You know, there was one that was just about men, and there's one about physical health, and there's one about, you know, like female empowerment and like female entrepreneurs and then business stuff. And there was like all these like, oh, if I could go to like a university or school, look at all these different things that I could be a part of. It's so alluring.
One movie I got to get you to check out, and I think it's on Prime right now, is The Master. It's got Joaquin Phoenix in it.
Yeah, we talked about that last week.
And it's got like Philip Seymour Hoffman in it. And like I say, it's almost like Scientology. They do a psychological test and they do interviews and stuff like that. And they kind of go back to your like different memories, just almost like Gnostic does. They go back into your different lives, as they call them, or, you know, past memories and things like that. And they kind of like, they program you. They find out things about you that they probably shouldn't know. And
I'll watch that if you watch Pig.
Deal. As long as that pig doesn't get hurt, okay?
I can't promise anything. I haven't seen it.
I want a little piggy to get hurt.
Well, it's kind of a cult thing too. The restaurant industry, which is kind of what it's about, is a bit of a cult thing.
They are, and I don't want
their figureheads and their organizations.
I don't want them to hurt that pig. I want him to go wee 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 all the way back home.
That's what I want too. That's what Nicolas Cage wants too.
Nicolas Cage just wants to snuggle that little piggy, and it just wants to be his little baby. Pigs are a lot like babies. I want to go wee 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 all the way home back to Nicolas Cage.
That's what I want.
That's what I want too.
Where can people find you?
Oh, people can find me. Well, I'm a slave to the goddamn gram. So you can find me at 21st Century Rocker Mom on Instagram. Oh my God, my mom got an Instagram, but it's private. You have to request to follow her.
IG.
I think it is. It's something like that. It's Mom Maria or so. I don't know what it is. you have to request her. If you want to see my mom's pictures, it's seriously very, very...
It's nothing but funeral photography through the years.
It's pictures of her dog. She sent me them to me. And then so, just another Polish grandma. Yeah, so find me at 21st Century Rocker Mom on Instagram. You can find me on Twitter at Tanny Candler. You can find me also at 21st Century Rocker Mom on TikTok. Doing a lot of weird stuff on there. Sometimes it ends up on my Instagram and my stories. If it does, you'll see it. And you can find me on all your favorite streaming platforms. And right now you can find me on YouTube. I'm doing a little bit more of these. You'll be able to see some of these taped episodes on my YouTube channel. If you click subscribe and you hit the little bell, bing, notification. So bing, 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 click subscribe on Tanny Candler channel. And you will get notifications every week. Even if you can't watch it, you'll be able to listen to it. Click subscribe on Spotify. Go ahead, follow me on all my socials, and I will let you know what I'm doing and what's coming next. And some pretty exciting shit's coming next. Where can they follow you, Rob?
You can check me out on Twitter at Rob McZob, but I'm going to do a shameless plug if I can.
You should.
We just released one of our TV shows, so if you're into action figures and toys, check out the Jane Rob Toy Show or Action Figure Adventure. Action Figure Adventure in particular is on Amazon Prime throughout the U.S., and on Jinx Esports TV Canada.
Right now, it just premiered.
You can hear this lovely lady's voice as the narrator for Action Figure Adventure.
I did narrate that series.
So that's kind of a good overlap spot. But we were pretty excited because we just launched that other show, Jane Rob Toy Show.
It's a big deal.
Yeah. So that would be awesome if you check that out if you like pop culture toys, vintage toys, new toys.
And I mean, Jinx Esports is Canadian, which is really cool.
But yeah, hit me up on Twitter at Rob McZob. I'm on the gram too, but I ain't no slave like this lady.
No, you ain't no slave to the gram. But no, if you check him out on Twitter, you can find out everything he's doing. It was lovely to sit and chat with you again for another week. Next week, I don't think it'll be as culty. I don't think we're going to try any of those sex practices. Do you want to try any of them?
Which ones?
The ones
you can try fishing with me.
All right, let's do some flirty fishing. All right, hookers for Jesus. Let's do it. Amen. Ha ha!